saying.
Chosen Knights lament.
God is not your real estate agent.
Philistine ain't for rent.
All I'm really saying.
Chosen Knights lament.
God is not your little real estate agent.
The Levant is not for rent. I can visualize the laughter when they pass the bill like NAFTA and tell you there's a crisis, name ISIS they've been after. They're setting off bombs, they're chopping off heads. Whatever boogeyman they can get under your bed. And if you refuse to turn your state into a comprador, you can bet your petrol about to have a proper war. You're not allowed to have a sandstone aquifer for independence. What the fuck you think they killed Gaddafi for? They don't like one world enemies. This is the same pack that whacked Jack Kennedy. This is the same clique that kidnapped the Lindbergh baby and murdered it ritualistically. The system is comprised for a liar's disguise. The lower you're willing to go, now the higher you rise. The less empathy you possess, the more capital you'll ultimately be able to invest in their fraudulent enterprise.
This concept of people saying, well, you chose to come here during this time to be a part of all of this. First of all, if I chose to come to this reality, if I chose to come to an insane reality, then the only one insane is me. I'm the only insane one to have thought this is a good idea. This is a good place to be, right? I mean, and this is a huge challenge, right? We're looking at the insane reality, but are we insane as well? Is this really a mental hospital? And we're only here because we too are on some level insane. And we're going through, as I talk about Dark City and I talk about Westworld and I talk about, as I go on here, this unraveling of the structures of who and what we think we are, why we're here, and what we're supposed to be doing are being challenged unlike ever before. Ever before. I mean, just to try to be human in this reality now is a challenge. It's a challenge. But at the fundamental level, we might be dealing with a reality that's meant to be insane. Now that would throw everyone for a loop because everyone is trying to change it, to fix it, to make it better, to make it not sane. And the trick may be not worry about reality. Just become sane yourself. Just be one sane element in an insane reality. That's really the trick. Because if all of that energy continues to go outward to try to fix a reality that might not need fixing, you have to deal with the relative in a sense before you find a more absolute truth. And when we start looking at the relative, when you honestly look at this relative reality, it doesn't take long to find it's all a lie. And I'll try to explain some of how I see this. But it doesn't matter what we're discussing, right? It doesn't matter whether you're talking about history or science or religion or sociology or how government is structured or how the world is run. Everything we've been presented is actually a lie. It's not true at all. And that means we've been living our whole life with a variety of assumptions that are actually not true. And even worse, right? If you start to look at this, you'll notice you've been fed a number of belief structures that have come from somewhere else that we've just taken as automatic truth. Like Chris was saying, I mean, I dug into archaeology 25 years ago and found all of that was a lie. Everything being presented about Egypt and Mexico and Peru, and it's a lie. It's an obvious. It doesn't take much to dig into it. Once you've been to these places a few times, it's a lie. I still thought history was true until I wrote Exposing the Expositions. And now I realize, oh yeah, all of history is not true either. And these things are important because as you break down relative truth, you're breaking down your belief structures. You're breaking down you might say, the claws of reality and the claws that reality have in you. So as a seeker of absolute truth, which you might say is knowing what God is, or knowing what's going to happen after you die, who you were before you're born, why this place exists. To locate an absolute truth with ignoring relative truth is going to be very, very difficult.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?
I was...
Look again. Freeze it.
This isn't the Matrix.
No. It's another training program designed to teach you one thing. If you are not one of us, you are one of them.
What are they?
Sentient programs. They can move in and out of any software still hardwired to their system. That means that anyone we haven't unplugged is potentially an agent. Inside the Matrix, they are everyone, and they are no one. We have survived by hiding from them, by running from them. But they are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors, they are holding all the keys, which everyone who has fought an agent has died. But where they have failed, you will succeed.
Why?
I've seen an agent punch through a concrete wall. Men have emptied entire clips at them and hit nothing but air.
What's the address of your emergency?
I'm actually camping in Ledworth, just outside of Ledworth.
Uh-huh.
My 2-year-old son, we can't find him.
How long has he been missing?
About an hour.
An hour?
Yeah.
Are you by water?
Yes.
Do you know which campground you're in?
Timber Creek.
Hold on. We need search and rescue.
News in Idaho Falls is kind of slow. Not a lot of big things happen here. I had only been here a few weeks when this case, the biggest story of my career, happened.
But it just didn't make sense that he did not find anything. Footprints, pieces of flesh, pieces of clothing.
Ups, downs. You could take a kid on it as long as you kept the kid in line and hung on to him. Because there were some areas where the ledges were only 24 inches wide and you had loose shale all the way down to the river. And then there was rock fields. Being a moderate trail, it's pretty tough. If you're not in shape, it'll take it out on you.
The church group went up to the Big South Trail. They parked at the trailhead and they started walking in on the trail. They started to separate or spread out as they walked in, some people faster and slower. One adult with Jared's sister and Jared seemed to be out ahead of everybody else, as Jared, as a 3-year-old, is running and playing and having a good time. And I believe there was something 10 to 20 minutes worth of time that she lost track. The adult realized, I haven't seen him for a while. And when they went up to try to find him, they kept going thinking they would catch up, and they didn't catch up.
It was reported that he spoke to some fishermen, and he asked if there were bears around. And he's alone at this point in time. At least they have an idea of, roughly where he was last seen.
I myself was cleaning some things and decided to sit down and watch a football game. And I must have been watching for maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and I slowly nodded off.
Something's wrong.
And they're like, Alan, we have to talk to you. Sure, what's going on? And they said, we had a problem with Jared. Well, what happened? Did he fall? Did he, scrape his knee? Did he break his arm? What happened? And what they actually said to me was, he's okay, we just can't find him. At that moment, I realized I had to go up the road. We got in our cars and I was in my truck. And I'm like, well, where are we going? They said it's about, I can't remember, 15, 16 miles up the road. And I'm like, are you serious? How'd you guys get up that far up the road? And the entire way up the road, I just kept beating myself in the chest like someone had stuck me with a sword. Just beating my chest and yelling Jared's name, yelling for God to help me. Please help me find my son, Lord. Just yelling and screaming. I yelled and screamed in my truck.
There'd been something more sinister than that. This time we decided to go off trail, and we just walked right into it. And we knew right away that it was probably Jared Adedaro's clothes.
Is there any way Jared could have climbed up to that spot on his own?
No way.
That's a hard one.
No way. Absolutely no way.
Not all the way. No, I could see him going. He lived in a cabin in the
He's a 3-year-old. There's no way. Yeah, there is no way that would happen. Yeah.
Not all the way.
I mean, it was a struggle for Gary and Addie. Yeah, very rough terrain.
There were canine alerts that would go that direction. Now, whether they were right at the scree field or before it, but they were at least alerting up that hill. That's why I'm reasonably certain we searched it, because when a dog alerts like that, we're thinking, okay, something must be up there, let's get up there and search for it. But we never found anything.
I think whatever's happening is beyond our understanding. In a lot of these cases, search and rescue, or the volunteers searching people, have already gone over certain areas, not once, not twice, but even dozens of times. And then the child is found there, maybe a year, maybe a few years later.
When we had discovered the clothes and went back up there with some of the people involved in the search, they were all scratching their heads, like, they had all been around the area.
My conclusion was an animal encounter right at the beginning. And so I'm not sure officially what has really been released as a finality, but it pretty much points to an animal encounter.
And if a cat actually took him, which is what I believe I believe happened. The cat would have taken him someplace and buried him, and with all of the activity that was going on, probably would have left because we would have scared it away and it would have came back later.
I hear constantly about a mountain lion. Yet, when they tested Jared's clothing, there was no mountain lion hairs, no DNA, no blood, nothing on his clothing. This is actually what's left of the cranium after 4 different DNA tests. To think that I mean, I have a hard time comprehending this, but to think that I'm actually sitting here holding my son. But this is what I have left of him. The clothing was sent to the CBI. The clothing was tested by the CBI. No mountain lion hairs, no blood, nothing on any of the articles of clothing. If a mountain lion would have attacked him, they go for the stomach area. And this jacket would have been in shreds. I've been told by several people, mountain lion experts in the works, this jacket would not have survived a mountain lion attack, period. These are the actual shoes. These are Jared's shoes that were found up on the mountain. I've been told by experts that they do not look like they've been in the wilderness for 3.5 years. The other thing that's interesting about the shoes is you would think that if a mountain lion were dragging his body up a mountain and dragging him like this, you would see marks on his shoes, and there are no marks there. You would think if he was dragging them this way up a mountain, not only would you see marks, but it would have pulled his shoes off way before the area where they fell. In one of the reports, the person says, well, the reason why you didn't find any DNA or blood or anything on Jared's clothing is because either he or something removed his clothing before he was attacked. Either Jared or something removed his clothing before he was attacked. And they go on to say that because there are so many hikers coming up, the mountain lion took Jared's body 500 feet up the side of the cliff. Well, wait a second. I can buy all that, but I can't buy this. If something or someone took Jared's clothing off before he was attacked, that means his clothing wasn't with him when this thing carried him up the mountain. Jared's pants were found inside out. Told by many mountain lion experts, mountain lions don't pull clothing off of you, especially your pants, and leave them there on the mountain inside out.
なんだ。
It's gotten to the point where every day when I wake up, I feel less and less connected to this reality. I have mentioned to a number of family and friends that I just have this overall sense of not belonging here, because this is not my world. I feel like an outsider looking in at some very strange realm that is a caricature of what life is supposed to be about. It's like looking at a fish tank that has not been cared for. Everything is murky and unhealthy, and I'm thinking, these poor fish need help. I have concluded that there are two realities. There is the one I know and remember, and there's the one that is this place. Somehow I ended up in this timeline. And I do spend time wondering how it happened and trying to figure out where the exit door is. I don't want to live in a comic book. There are two parallel dimensions which somehow got their wires crossed. At first glance, the dimensions appear to be the same, but with closer inspection, we find anomalies, and we can see there are indeed differences. This dimension or reality is a darker and denser version of the one that I remember, which wasn't perfect, but it certainly wasn't this train wreck. There is a scene in David Lynch's great sequel to his original 1990s Twin Peaks series called Twin Peaks 2017, where the atomic bomb was detonated and caused a chain reaction and resulted in the existing reality being obliterated. This was an actual concern of some of the scientists working on the bomb. The truth is, they really didn't have any idea what might happen with an atomic blast since they never did it before, but they went ahead with the detonation anyway. In the scene, Lynch shows the world evaporating and then reforming. But the question is, how did reality reform? I think Lynch was telling us it was done through consciousness, which never dies. The collective consciousness that existed before the detonation pieced the reality back together, to the best of its ability. But the recreation was not an exact replica. There were missing pieces, creating differences in the rebuilt version. Now, whether Lynch was telling us that is what happened, or whether he was giving us a metaphor to explain the power of consciousness, I will leave to each of you to decide. But one thing is clear. Consciousness and our thoughts have immense power. Another theory I have has to do with the manipulation of consciousness via occult rituals and magic to steer the collective thought in a particular direction in order to alter the existing reality. Altering can mean changing a standalone reality without any blending into another dimension, or it could mean nudging and pushing the standalone reality into another dimension, thus creating overlap or a blending of both realities. I believe the controllers do this with major events which cause tremendous upheaval in the status quo of people's lives, and thus intentionally steering the focus and the thoughts and consciousness of the masses in a specific direction. This redirection creates a new thread or layer of reality that did not exist before. An example of such a ritual is September 11, 2001. 9/11 captured the attention, thoughts, and fear of just about everyone in the world. Fear generates elevated levels of energy from a human. This is why the controllers resort to fear tactics on a perpetual basis. A capturing of consciousness at such a magnitude like 9/11 enables the occultists to manifest their desired outcomes. This is why I refer to such operations as 9/11 events. The current COVID-19/coronavirus PSYOP is also a 9/11 event where the playing field involves a worldwide audience who are participating in a massive ritual. In fact, as I stated in a previous video, the priesthood encoded COVID-19 and coronavirus with 9/11 numerology. Make no mistake, the COVID ritual is intended to significantly change the current reality. This is why the controllers call it the Great Reset. For those that are interested in the concept of alternate realities, I recommend the Netflix series The OA, which stands for The Original Angel. The series was only in production for 2 seasons, but the message being communicated is quite intriguing. I found it to be thought-provoking. So the question becomes, what do we do when those that are awake are far outnumbered by the mechanized and programmed people that populate this realm? All I can do is offer my take on how I navigate this very strange place. I concluded there is not going to be a mass awakening. All we need to do to prove this is to look at the number of people walking around with their faces covered with masks. So for me, this is an individual journey. It is not a collective effort. But that doesn't mean I don't care about my fellow human. The truth is, a community is only as strong as its individual members. If a community is comprised of people that have limited knowledge and limited awareness, then the collective, along with the individuals making up the collective, are going to experience a sub-optimized life. A sub-optimized life is one where the person is not living and manifesting according to their will, but living by the will imposed upon them by others. And this is the situation we have in this reality. the controllers are imposing their will on the majority of the masses. For those who have awakened to the tactic, we are pushing back on the agenda by asserting our will, which is in opposition to that of the controllers. Unfortunately, from the perspective of a collective, numbers count and the controllers have the upper hand. But that does not mean we cannot apply our individual will to make our individual lives better. Now, of course, better means different things to different people. For me, it means to strive to understand this experience the best I can and try to solve the mysteries and reveal the truths that are hidden from me, so I can gain knowledge and enrich my soul, not my physical avatar, but my soul with wisdom. This is why doing our inner work and having an inner standing of our true purpose is paramount in order to recognize who we really are aside from our physical being. We came into this world to interact with this realm and learn from it. This is a place of duality and opposing forces. When it's good, it can be great, and when it's not, it can be very dark. But we incarnated into this life knowing full well what the experience was going to be about, and that experience, first and foremost, is all about spiritual growth and wisdom. This place, believe it or not, is a school. And yes, it's a tough one. But the good news is, what we learn we take with us once we're off this ride. The soul never forgets what it learns. And once the roller coaster stops, our soul will unbuckle, step off the ride, and leverage that knowledge and wisdom to open the many doors of opportunity in our quest for spiritual enlightenment and, dare I say, illumination. We will be confronted with difficult choices to make as the controllers push the agenda. There is no doubt about this. I have had many people ask me what to do if forced vaccines become a reality. My answer is, you will need to make a decision. Either refuse or accept the vaccines. But if I refuse, Mike, there will be consequences which I won't like. I won't be allowed to travel. I won't be able to do this or that. Well, I never said the choices were going to be easy. Some of our decisions will be very difficult and troubling. But this is the nature of where we are at. I have found that picking and choosing my battles is very helpful. I cannot fight everything. There are so many aspects of this reality which I have no control over. I cannot change something I do not control, and boiling the ocean is never a good strategy because it never works. For example, the odds of putting a stop to the mass installation of smart meters is extremely low. Too many people are not up to speed on the harmful effects, nor do they have any desire to educate themselves on the issue. However, I can and did decide to have the traditional manually read meter installed on my house. It cost me more money a month, but I decided the additional cost was worth it to not have the smart meter installed. My neighbor may have made a completely different decision. A lot of this has to do with what we are personally comfortable with, so we don't feel like we are compromising our principles. And there are certainly going to be times when we're not completely happy with the choice we made, but we made the best decision based on the overall situation at the time. Last but not least, my decisions are my decisions. I need to do what I feel is best for me and my family. I have no sense of having to feel guilty about something I decided to do because someone else disapproves. I am not interested in someone else's opinion of what I do in my life because it's my life. Besides, I have found those people who have something to say usually have their own issues to address. Once they get their own house in perfect order, maybe then we can have a conversation. Maybe. For me, the choices and decisions I make is all part of the experience I came here for. Would I like to see more people wake up? Of course. But I understand the reality of the cards that have been dealt, and trying to be the Pied Piper that attempts to push a building uphill is wasted time and energy. So it gets back to being an individual journey. And if everyone worked on their individual growth and the expansion of their awareness and consciousness, the world would be better for it.
So what do you think that, are we wasting our time, or are we really actually trying to affect something?
It does seem futile at times. We're in a race. I mean, I think we are in a race, and the race is nearing. I hate to say it, nearing its end. Now, its end, that could be 3 more generations, 5 more. That's still close to the end, considering how long potentially all this has been going on. So we're in a race, and I do believe that, I do believe in people that say, at least collectively, human consciousness influences or affects reality. So as people trying to get others to see the way things really are, or at least to see the basics of the control structure, there was my friend in the UK, Ian Moore, said, collectively, human consciousness at a certain critical mass can actually change our reality. So that's what we're trying to do. Everyone we can recruit is like a little bit more, it's like recruiting another Jedi. It's like one more person that the strength of what we're trying to do becomes greater. But when I say we're in a race, all this talk of transhumanism and the chipping the brain, just a few generations from now, in other words, it might be the point of no return. I mean, that's what's so scary. If we are in a recycling center and you are interested in Saturn Moon Matrix, and we've done this before, well, the scary thing is two more recycles, your last two of the last 1,000, you come in and you're chipped as after they imprint your soul as a baby, an infant, they chip you, and then you're done, and then you don't have the ability. So that's like the point of no return, and that's very scary.
Yeah, what is disconcerting to me is that the people good folks trying to awaken people, they can't even agree on things that they should agree on, or maybe just agree to disagree and converge on the goal line or a like objective. There's just so much fighting and arguing within the community itself, and I'm using the word community, folks, loosely. Whereas the controllers, they have a very unified front. And what a lot of folks don't understand is, in fact, I had this conversation with two friends the other day, and I said to them, we live in a place where you are a slave. And they just looked at me, and they kind of just stepped back a little bit. And I know exactly what ran through their mind. Well, I'm not a slave. I'm not a slave, It's
a brave new world.
Yeah. I was trying to explain to them, giving them some examples, some very easy examples. Well, they take 40 cents out of every dollar, right? I mean, it's your money. You're out working for it. Why aren't you keeping that 40 cents on a dollar? Why isn't it all going into your pocket? You have a home, right? You pay your home off. You start to pay property taxes, because property taxes is a perpetual lien on your land. And if you don't pay it, not only are they going to take your land, but they're going to take the house that you think that you own. So I was giving them some examples, But that's the issue that I have, that I see, is that there's just a lot of bickering and a lot of disharmony amongst the truth community, where they throw rocks at each other. And, if I were on the other side, on the dark side, looking at us, I'd be laughing. I would be thinking to myself, these guys can't get out of their own way.
Well, two things, Mike. One is they've absolutely infiltrated the community.
Right.
So half the rocks are slung by them. It's more infiltrated than we can imagine.
Yep.
And why, it doesn't, it's very simple to see. If you have if you're sitting on $1 trillion infrastructure and millions of employees or people, it wouldn't be hard to plant a few thousand into YouTube and a few 3,000 or 4,000 into Facebook. I mean, it's not, and you have unlimited deep pockets. It's easy to see why they're able to cause whatever disruption or infighting that they do. That being said, I agree with what you were saying earlier, that at least we could have we could write a new page of our Constitution every day and have the 5 things we agree on, and then we agree on these 6 things.
Right.
And number 7 we're going to add is we all agree that 19 hijackers didn't do it. Let's just agree there and form a list of what we all agree on. And in the areas where we don't agree, less filling, tastes great, flat, whatever, then at least we would say, let's have a cordial discussion, like you said. But you're right, we don't back up and say, what are the 10 things we agree on, and try to expand that out. Like you were saying earlier also, just people think that, I can get up at 3 in the morning and drive to 7-Eleven and get hot dogs rolling around, and I have the ability to go out without papers. I'm completely free. And it's like a buffet. It's like a really bad buffet that serves 3 different types of food. Like a spaghetti, a stromboli, and like a bad chicken sandwich. And you can fill up on as much as you want, but go out. If you go outside that box that the buffet feeds you, then see how quickly your freedom breaks down.
Yeah. Going back to what you were saying before too, and some of the flat earthers, and I have good friends in the FE community. They're not going to probably like what I'm going to say, but I've been asked a couple of times. They said, "Well, Mike, don't you agree that the flat Earth is the most important conspiracy that we need to look into?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." And
yeah, I agree.
And then they just take a step back. They said, "What do you mean? It's where we live and everything else." I said, "Look, there's a lot of stuff out there." I said that if you take a look at it, it's very important. We could take a look at the whole pharmaceutical industry and vaccines and flu shots as an example of what they're directly injecting into your body. We can make a whole thing out of that. And you just pick any one of these big time conspiracies, and once you start to dig into it, you could see that each one, by itself, has an enormous impact on humanity. So, you were saying before, don't give me two doors, right? That's how I am too. It's like, you know what? There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff.
But my best estimation from again, what I do is I can kind of read a little bit of the matrix code at this point, and I can sniff out the bullshit of what the control structure throws at us. To me, I do favor some sort of simulation. I mean, even well, let me just say what I think. I'm very similar to the Overwatch channel. The Overwatch channel, some sort of matrix simulation that was put here for a purpose, for a good purpose, for a just purpose. A long time ago, something hijacked it. That's where I am. So I don't know much about Saturn Moon Matrix, Saturn, the AI heart of the malevolent simulation that projects through the moon, and I don't know that. I'm interested in that. That resonates with me. Reality, simulation. We were immoral conscious. Come here to do something. Come here to experience something. Something malevolent hijacked it, and that's why there's so many things that don't add up. There's a list of. Let me just mention this to you, Mike. I mean, years ago, I did this, and I told people to do this, and I still recommend you do this. I grabbed a scrapbook, journal books from elementary school. And every time I heard an impossible fact while I was here in the home office, I was listening to something, I wrote it down. And the book filled up like in a year, completely filled up. And there's just so many impossible synchronicities that's why I still favor illusion or matrix. Just the Abraham Lincoln to John F. Kennedy synchronicities are so 1 in billions that all those things could match up. That the last video I made was on the eclipse. Again, we talked about the reality bubbles, and what I said earlier, like certain people just can't even see a certain reality.
No.
And I'm not saying though in their reality that 19 hijackers really did it. It doesn't go that far. They're just blind in those areas, but there's just certain things it's just they can't see. And back to, I mean, I know, again, some people hate Mandela effect conversations, but if I could just say one other thing, I have observed people get the download. And see, we don't get a lot of evidence as to what exactly is going on. So when you get a fingerprint, you have to really use it to solve the case. And I've had enough people confirm with me over many, many years, and I saw it happen with a friend of mine he's had a big corporate job. Let me just tell you guys what happened, even if you don't like the Mandela effect, because if people are getting the download, this is just one more thing we can use to figure out reality. So I asked them all the questions. I said, well, if they build it, who will come? Oh, they will come. Interview with a vamp, life is like all the same things. He answered exactly the way I would say I wanted him to answer. And then I said, there's something called the Mandela effect. All the answers you gave were wrong. And then it was like the conspiracy script started to run in his brain. And it started to come back that, oh, yeah, Matt, oh, yeah, he's a conspiracy theorist. Oh, this is coming through that same vein of conspiracy. And then I saw him change all his answers.
Yep.
He said, well, you know what? I think come to think of it, if you build it, he will come. And I saw him change his answers. And there was a guy who I was with who's not in our circles, but he's much more open to all this stuff. Very open-minded guy, has a corporate job, but he doesn't sit and ponder this stuff like a reality junkie like I do. But I said, did you see the download? He's like, yeah. He just changed all his answers for no reason, like an antenna went out of his ear. There's something to that.
Yep.
And I've heard enough people talk about that as well. But that you can relate that back to 9/11. Why do we see it so clearly and they can't see it? I think it's all related. I don't, and somebody right now listening to this screaming at their computer or the podcast is going, because Matt, the mind control is already taken over. And yeah, it is. It probably is. And it's way past the subliminals that were, at the end of the, at 2 in the morning in 1975 when the channels would go off and they play the Star Spangled Banner. It's much more sophisticated than that. Why we're immune to it? I don't know. But maybe it's like, it's like the scene in They Live that they'll, these things will start pointing at us soon and say, that one can see. So I don't know, but they're all related. All these topics are related.
I agree. I say that people, the term I use is that they are artificially intelligenced. What they do is they actually defend the Matrix, or we can refer to it, as the Borg. So, in other words, it's exactly as you just explained, Matt, where somebody will, all of a sudden they go into defense. They play defense. And they become defensive, and they start actually falling back into the Matrix, into the programming. And it's as if, like you said, there's something in their mind, little program starts clicking off and saying, okay, now you need to respond this way. You need to push back. You need to go into denial. You need to start calling him names, And I've seen it.
The script runs. The script starts to
Yep.
run. And we don't know whether it's completely... See, you can still say the script runs, even if it's a hologram or Neo's Matrix, or it's more of a physical world. The script still can run. Like, this still can happen because the script could be embedded in a 4K television.
Yeah.
Who do you know where the script comes from? But we can agree on this. The script will run in people's, and maybe my friend didn't get an actual Wi-Fi signal. Maybe the script was already embedded in him, that Mandela effect, conspiracy, reject everything, everything that is about to be said. Even, that script could have been laid down on him a long time ago.
Yeah, and I think that some of us are immune to it. There's a point in which we woke up, and this is what happens with me. I woke up. What woke me up actually was 9/11, after believing it, like many, many, many other people. And also the moon landings. That was something else that I had looked into, and was quickly coming to the conclusion that they were completely hoaxed. But then what happens, I think, Matt, is that we stay away from their influences. We stay away from their traps. We stay away from their hypnosis on the television. We stay away from their movies. We stay away from their vaccines. We don't drink their fluoridated water. So there's all these things that we start to do. And I think the way that you stay off their wagon and you don't ride their train is that you essentially shut them off. I mean, and that's what I have done. Because I have people all the time that say to me, hey, Mike, do you watch this TV series on television? It's on HBO or Showtime, whatever it may be. I look at them like, I don't watch that stuff. I don't watch it. And they look at me like, oh, are you kidding me, dude? I mean, that's like the best show that's ever been made. I'm like, I don't watch it. I occupy my time in much better, more productive ways.
Yeah, I'll disagree with you a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I told my channel that a year ago, it was less than a year ago, I got to smart TV. By the word, anything coded with smart is the system laying down that's the code word.
Yep.
That this is a either a mind control device or something we're going to monitor you with. That's what smart anything is. That's they came up with that term, not retailers selling washing machines. But I got it's not a 4K TV, but I got the smart TV for the Netflix and all that. And I asked people on the channel, I said, if you see a change in me, let me know. And there's been no change in me as far as I'm aware at all. In fact, I see the script as even more ridiculous. And then there's some other things that I watch movies and TV and some other things. I participate in the Matrix in certain ways. So I don't know, it's not that I don't think I do have to avoid it. I don't think it would. I used to watch a ton of news because of the old channel.
Yeah.
I would break down ridiculous North Korean news stories. What's happening today that's totally made up. And So I watched it. I was engrossed in under the old channel, and it didn't change my viewpoint. So,
well, I agree with you that there's a certain level of it that you do have to engage in order to do the work that we do. I mean, this is some things I have to pay attention to, because otherwise, I don't know what I would be putting up on the blog, because I'm trying to get a point across on the blog. So in order to make that point, I have to understand, the issues that are trying to be forced down our throats. Yeah, no, what I was saying was that, some people are just chomping at the bit, always going to the movies, sitting in front of the television all the time, watching cable news incessantly. That's where I was going with it. I probably didn't express it that way.
That's a trap. That's a trap. I mean, my friend Greg he has a family member that is just Fox News. He's trapped in that pen. And, conservatism has conservatism is the first baby step towards truth. It really is.
Yep.
And not everybody, most people, 99% can't break out of that pen. But it is the first step towards truth. It's 3.8 trillion a year. Well, what do we get at? What do we get for that if we're under 65? Nothing. We get roads and schools. No, we don't. That's done on the state. You get nothing for 3.8 trillion a year. So conservatism is the first little sniff that something's not quite right. Now, again, most people don't break out, but I hate to say it, liberalism on the other side. I mean, obviously, trust me, folks, R versus D, that's not real. It's all one power structure. We know that. But people that are active liberals that do the women's marches, they are gone. They don't even smell that something's wrong. That's weird. That is bizarre.
Yep.
That people, at least the conservatives will bitch about the government in front of their television as they used to watch O'Reilly. Something's not quite right. But on the other side, the people that actually look forward to the Rachel Maddow show, they're gone. These people are gone.
Yeah, it's interesting, recently how everybody was on board. It didn't matter whether they were Republicans or Democrats with throwing bombs over in Syria, or doing whatever it is that we're saying we're doing in Syria. I know some will argue that nothing's going on, it's all theater, but my point being is, whether it's real or not, both sides are in the same bed, and they're all cheering it on, Whereas classic liberalism, going back many years ago, decades ago, I mean, they would be the anti-war voices, right? They would be front and center, right, speaking about it. And you don't hear that anymore. You really don't hear that anymore.
I mean, what we're saying is we're agreeing that even the R&D ridiculous false paradigm never existed. But even in the old days, it kind of made sense, because you had the people, George Bush killing babies in Iraq, and at least it made. Now it's like it doesn't even make sense that their viewpoints. They'll just go do a women's march, and at the end of the march, they say, well, why did you march? And they won't even be able to tell you.
Right.
They won't even be able to really describe what the hell they're doing. It's just, it's like The Walking Dead. I mean, the mind control has to be being ramped up. I mean, there's really not a lot of other ways to explain it away.
Yeah, and plus obviously all of these marches, like the Women's March, these are all orchestrated and engineered, and they get a bunch of useful idiots to go out there and dress up and with signs and shout, and they don't even know what they're shouting about. They have no idea. And this is really a sad state of affairs, and it's sad commentary on where we are at from a societal and a cultural perspective. And I'm sorry, folks, if this sounds like Mike's being like a rain cloud here, but I'm just speaking my mind with regard to being in this all the time and keeping a pulse on this stuff. The reality of the situation is, when you take a look around, this is what's going on. You have a lot of people who are not critically thinking. They're just not. I mean, they're going along with the program, or the very worst case is they're extremely apathetic. They can care less. They're not interested at all in what's going on around them.
I mean,
the old is kind of done in everything, and that includes the spiritual traditions. The old is done. The old ways of doing things are no longer relevant. We're in a sense in a completely new world, we're moving into a completely new reality. That reality might not be very good. A lot of us might not even make it in that new reality, but it still is going to require completely different spiritual work. And thus, digging into relative truth means far more now than it did 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. Seeing the structure of what is here is important. Now we're in a spiritual war. There is a spiritual war going on. So what is that spiritual war? It's a war of perception. That's the best way I can describe it. It's a war of perception. And it's been going on for a long time. This reality has been manipulating and attempting to control your perception. All of us. All of us have had our perception manipulated for a long time. And that's a real interesting twist to it all. That the game that we're in, which is a game, right? In a sense, it's a game. We're believing there are billions of people and believing there are all of these things going on in this reality, when of course that's actually not true. There's something quite different. Absolute truth is one. It's absolute. But we have the experience of the multitude. And this experience of our multitude is challenging because I call it the curtain reality. And it got me when I was at the Vatican in the Sistine Chapel for the first time.
Okay, come on, come on. Look at you. Wow. Look at you. Hey guys. Look at this, all blinking. It's just hovering in place. I'm gonna, look, it's just hovering there. Hovering. Hovering there. Awesome. I'm thrilled right now. Right above the roof. I can't see. Oh. Okay. Okay, it's right above this. Right above us. Dude. Dude, are you watching this? Look at this. It's not making a sound either. Look at this, man. This is what's flying over Longview, these weird craft. Look at that. They're coming towards us or going? Keep an eye out on the other one. There's two flying around. These, I don't care what anybody says, these aren't helicopters. You'd hear a helicopter. You hear the cars, you hear the radio, you don't hear helicopter. Helicopters are loud if they're this close. And they don't look like that. Have you seen a helicopter that look like that? This one's sticking around. Grab the tripod out again. I'm gonna cut the engine for a sec. Yeah. I hear nothing but dogs going crazy. Yeah, bring it out real quick. Can you go in my car and turn the light off? It has an on and off switch. Alright. Here we go. Look at you. Look at the weird ass glow. You see the other one anymore?
The big one that was really close? No, it like flew off that way.
Right. Why does it not look clear? It's like bulbish. It looks like a blob. God damn. No, bro. What are you doing? Just got a faker right here. Right here. Gotta use something to prop it. What the fuck? Hold on. Come on, man. Come on. Here we go. Come on. Get into focus, goddammit. Hell fucking yes. Oh, let me get on this thing. This is a mailbox. Hold on. I knew I saw him. I knew I saw him. Hello, UFO. Over East Texas, Longview, Texas. Alright guys, a chase is about to ensue. I don't have... no. Alright guys, a chase is about to ensue. Yep, that's exactly what they did a minute ago. Look how bright that is. Spectacular. Now they're going back to the left with all the lights the same way they were moving to the right. So nice trying to tell me that it's just a plane or a helicopter flying around. Yeah, bullshit. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's probably a triangle we got us here. Regardless, it's one of these fakers. Oh, it's cold. It is definitely cold out. It was a little bit closer the first time. That's why it just seemed so spectacular when it flared up. It was so close that it looked like it was on fire. It really did. To the human eye, I could like see the jagged, almost flames. Like it was not lights. It was not lights of a plane. When you see it that close. Oh, you see the lights changing up there? That almost looks like the kind of light change-ups and light formations we see on who's my Mojo's channel. I can't remember the whole name. I'm so bad. It's probably about 30 degrees out right now, and we got some decent winds, which add to the temperature. Yeah, this is about the time that I filmed a similar craft called the Winter UFO, and the reason I named it the Winter UFO is because I filmed it because it stuck around in the area for an hour, and I filmed it for that entire hour. And actually, if you watch the video, you'll hear me say that it was there for 15 to 30 minutes before. And we got something over to the left. That while that is behind views, we got something over here. So now it appears that we have multiple things. That definitely looks like a triangle off in the distance. Off here. Definitely something over there, but let me see if this guy is back in view. He's not too far away, guys. There's a golf course, and if you ask Seeing UFOs PA with Allison Cruz, she'll tell you that they like golf courses. And a friend of mine made the joke that if it happened to be some grays in there, wouldn't they need shorter clubs? Yeah, for some reason they like hanging out above golf courses. I don't know why. I guess because at night maybe people aren't using the golf course and it allows them to get low below the trees so they can morph up. I don't know, but
hey, tonight I'm gonna talk about like some Mandela effects. So I've got like a whole bunch of like really random stuff. Some of these are Mandela effects that probably have been mentioned before, and some of these I haven't heard mentioned anywhere, so I'm just gonna get into it. The first one I'm going to go into is JFK and his back brace. Okay, on Old Earth, JFK never had a back brace. JFK and his older brother both served. They both went to war. The one that was supposed to be president was the older brother, but he was killed during the war. So JFK's grandfather on the maternal side, Honey Fitz, thought that would be the best replacement and that he would be the one, you know what I mean, the one that could step up to the plate and fulfill the political aspirations of the family, which at the time were really daunting because they'd never had like an Irish Catholic president. It was just unheard of up to that point, but he won. Very interesting Rainbow Hills in China. This is a newer Mandela effect, at least for me. I'm not sure exactly what kind of like chemical oxidization or what exactly could happen. You know, like when copper oxidizes, it'll change color, which like could explain the greens in it. But this is like very spectacular and fantastical to be an accidental occurrence. This is pretty darn cool. I would definitely say it's a little bit of a hint from God that things are going on. People gotta wake up when they start seeing like rainbow hills and rainbow trees. When I first saw this, I was like, that tree is spray painted, there's no way, but there's an actual tree, the rainbow eucalyptus, rainbow gum tree, that when it sheds its bark, it's got all these colors in it. So rainbow trees and rainbow hills are around. It's very, very D12, blue and yellow, purple hills, except for real. So I hope people are waking up to that one. One I personally experienced was the Target symbol. I remember going into Target and the dot was the same size as the dot here, so they've gotten this wrong. But there's two rings, two red rings instead of one. And when I first saw that there was only one red ring on the Target symbol, beg pardon, I just figured that they had changed their copyrights or they had changed their logos. Like when I see things on like products and shops and things, you know, stores, I'm kind of like, oh, well, that's just their marketing team wants to change things up. But no, it's like when you look into what is their logo and how long have they had it, when it's a Mandela effect, it'll have changed, but the history will reflect that it's always been this way. So yeah, it doesn't look like a bullseye like this. Like I said, it has the same size center with two smaller rings. So that's changed around. And then the other one that I personally experienced is the traffic lights on Old Earth. The green is on top. Green light on top, red light on the bottom. That's not the way here. And unfortunately, like I was talking to somebody very close to me and it was like the tip off to let me know that we were from two different places, because he said when he was learning to drive, it was easy, red on top, green on bottom. And I was like, oh no, you're from here, not from there. It just got turned upside down. I mean, I guess it's the same if you're a new earther who ends up on Old Earth, it's upside down to you. Old earther that ends up here, it's upside down to us. It hasn't really affected me like that badly. I can still tell like the color red and the color green, so it hasn't messed up my life, but it's like definitely a clear indicator to me because I've seen these things absolutely all my life and I know the green is on top and the red's on the bottom.